Here you know, if you don't know, you don't know until we release it. Anyway, next question. Maybe just for Frank or David.
On the book, are you going to have any copies here today?
I have a few copies with me. Yes. So, yes.
5 minutes,
Just come
we
see
have
me
5
afterwards,
minutes,
okay?
we'll be letting everybody in.
Y'all don't have to leave when everybody comes in. You can, but you don't have to. We have the stage for another 30 minutes. Go ahead.
Jack, at the spot place in North Texas, nothing but gumbo soil, gumbo clay.
Black gumbo clay.
Yes. I learned how hard it was to dig post holes in the last week. And my neighbors tell me it's going to get worse. When I put my trees in, is that going to just hold water in and kill my trees?
It won't kill your trees. I mean, this is the same soil type we had down in South Arlington. And, I mean, trees down there do wonderful. That clay is actually an asset, and if you start mulching, you'll find that it doesn't do what it does everywhere else. There's places where we had heavily mulched it, and all of a sudden that clay gets structured. Because as soon as you get life into that, because it's actually better soil than it looks like, and as soon as you get life into it and stop dumping crap on it, you start to get this crumbly texture to it, and it's actually a pretty decent soil. How big's your property? 10 acres. 10 acres, beautiful. Put ponds in, because it'll seal beautifully. I'll trade you. You can have my rock, and I'll take your black clay. No, it'll do just fine. I mean, every property has things that are good and bad about it, but in the end, lots of organic material fixes everything, and lots of mulching fixes everything. It's all about getting something down there instead of you tilling the soil, getting little microbes and little creatures and worms and stuff like that to do it. I wouldn't sweat it at all. The one thing I would not do, and a lot of people advise, and it's a terrible idea, is dig your hole, fill it up with compost, and then plant your tree into that. Plant your tree into the soil that it's going to live in. Otherwise, what happens, if you give it like this nice little Cinderella environment, it gets really reluctant to drive roots into the system. The other thing is that heavily soaked clay, a tree's a hydraulic pump. It's one of the few things in nature that's actually capable of moving water up without significant energy inputs. So the more trees you plant, the more of that excess moisture will be actually taken up into those trees, and that'll actually help to dry out some of your wetter areas.
Any updates on the Jeff Lawton thing at your place?
Yeah, as some of you know, I'm planning on having Jeff come out and design my entire property. I wanted to do that by now this year, and it's just not going to happen with everything that's been going on. It looks like it'll be the spring of 2014. He just sent me a bill of materials, so I know how to price everything and put everything together. It's going to be an interesting, challenging project. We're looking at doing this, and maybe you guys can give me some input on it. I could probably only take 20 to 25 people at that 5-day workshop, but Jeff's willing to do a full 2-week PDC, a permaculture design course. And what I was thinking about doing is, well, I can set that up at a hotel with an event coordinator, and in a PDC, you always end up touring at least 1 or 2 local properties. So my thought was we could run the workshop first, followed by the PDC, and the field work for the PDC. I don't mind having 80 people on my property for half a day. I just can't have them there for 5 days because the neighbors will have a heart attack. And I just don't have room for I don't have room for that many people on 3 acres. Not unless we take over and annex the neighbor's yard or something.
That's right.
But that's where we're at with it right now. And I'm thinking it's probably going to be in the neighborhood of $1,500 to $1,800 a head for that workshop. But I think it'll be worth it because it'll be a small group. You'll be working with the guy I consider to be the best in the world. And the property's got some unique challenges. And what I think he's actually excited about doing it because it'll be one of these things where people go, but this, but that, here, you know. So that's where we're at with that now. So we're probably looking at March. I'm also going to be speaking at the Voices of Permaculture conference, and probably in March, I think it's either March or April next year out in California, alongside people like Toby Hemingway. Jeff's going to be out there, Paul Wheaton, Alan Savory. I mean, some of the biggest names ever. That's going to be a huge conference out there that we just booked to be at that. So I might try to kind of co-mingle all 3 of these events together to help cut the price of Jeff's airfare, because I have to pay his airfare, Nadia's airfare, and their son's airfare out of Australia, and they insist on flying business class, and I don't blame them on a flight that long.
Do you have any other workshops more like maybe for local people that are less expensive that we can
Next month, likely. I'm trying to get my biggest trouble right now is getting an equipment operator. I got a neighbor that says he'll do it, but I never see him. He hasn't gotten back with me. And does anybody here know how to run a small excavator? Seriously? Do you live here?
Yeah, I live in Omaha.
Would you be interested in being my excavator operator for my workshop next month?
I would do that.
Excellent. See me after this. So next month.
I'm freaking out over it.
You just never know. Sometimes people are like, yeah, I can do that. And then
There will be a test.
it's pretty easy work. We're going to bring in a Mini X, and actually we got some work that needs to be done before the event. But I'll talk to you about it after this. That's great. Anybody else? Because I can do it, but I'm not good.
Aging meat. If
Yeah.
you want to age your deer or beef or whatever, what is the most effective way to do it? I mean, other than throwing it in your refrigerator.
When I lived in Pennsylvania, we would just hang deer down in our cellar. And deer season was late enough in the year that it was cool enough in the cellar. We would hang them for about 10 to 14 days before we would quarter them out and butcher them. Sometimes even up there, archery season was earlier. It wasn't even cool enough for it there. I had this old, like 1950s refrigerator. And what I would do is I'd take them down the cellar, I'd quarter them, and I would then put them in the refrigerator in quarters. But what I did is I gutted the whole refrigerator, and I put a rack across the top of it so I could hang the quarters. So the meat, because the one problem with aging meat in the refrigerator is you don't want your cuts laying on top of each other. You want them to hang and put something underneath it, because you're still going to get, no matter how well you bleed out the carcass, you're going to get some bleed out while you're doing this in quarters. But that's the only way I can tell you to do it here. Unless you have like a big walk-in cooler, like some of the places I go deer hunting down here, they have these big walk-in coolers. And that's good while you're there, but you're not there long enough to age it.
Would there be a way to build a permanent structure like that without a bunch of cost that's associated with it?
How do you build a giant walk-in freezer without a lot of money? Refrigerator.
I just thinking about that as you said that. I would use styrofoam board. I would use regular 2-inch styrofoam board that you can get from Home Depot, or you can find a door manufacturer. You know how they have all those cutouts for windows and doors? They will give you all the door cutouts you can possibly want for free if you're Johnny on the spot and you want to come up there and haul them away. When they say our dumpster is being dumped tomorrow and we need you to pick these up before we put them in the dumpster, or we want to save dumpster space, you need to come there and get them. So, but if you just did it for the Home Depot route, use 2-inch foam, and then you're going to paint it with white latex exterior paint. It's one of the best coatings you can put on anything.
And your cooler? Pretty cool.
Oh, wow.
Have an idea. Just see what you think. I would think if you built a small enough structure, just big enough to fit your carcass in, if you got a really high efficient window unit air conditioner, you only need to be pushing it down to about 50 degrees. And if you just ran it with an override so it wouldn't shut itself off, you should be able to push it down to 50 degrees.
I would find a manual air conditioner, one with actual switches on it, not temperature settings, and then I would get an external temperature relay, like from the hardware store, and I would set it on 55 or 60 degrees, and I would have it turn the AC system on and off for the temperatures, and that way you got really good reliability, really good temperature regulation, and it should be really bulletproof. The hard thing will be finding a cheap air conditioner that doesn't have a thermostat on it, but you should be able to find one for $65 at Walmart. I think that would work great.
Coming to you next month, How to Build a Deer Cooler by Steve Harris.
It's going to be Deer Cooler 1, 2, 3, 4.
Deer Cooler 1, 2, 3, 4. Anybody else? I saw a hand back there. Somebody? Nobody? Come on. You got like 3 really cool guys here. You guys got to have questions for them.
3, 4.
I don't count. Go ahead. I can't hear you.
Smokehouse.
Smokehouse?
Have you done anything with smokehouses at all?
We don't have one now, but I love smoking.